Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the New Fashion Conservatives podcast. I'm your host, Justin Phillips, and with me, as always, is the shadow of Governor Voss,
Robin Voss's strongest soldier.
And joining us on a very special episode is the one and only Wisconsin's conservative sponge, known to the experts as Wiz Political and soaking up liberal tears.
Yeah, excited to be here, guys.
Sponge, welcome to the show. And like a lot of you, we're Ronmaxxing this week after Ron Johnson obliterates Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. We're continuing our conversation on the new Richmond School District, Madison High School's drag show, and covering what took place in the legislature this week. So, fellas, let's start it off on the federal side, something we don't necessarily cover that often, but I'm going to play this clip to start us off of Ron Johnson having some words with the Minnesota Attorney General in his role in the Minnesota fraud scandal.
I, as a government official, would have said, back off. Let us work with ICE. Let's cooperate with them. Let's see if we can't de-escalate this. But Attorney General, you did the exact opposite. And 2 people are dead because you encouraged them to put themselves into harm's way. And now you're exploiting those 2 martyrs. That was a tragedy. It never should have happened. Now, we can investigate, but I can't imagine being a law enforcement official where I know my colleagues have been shot at, their vehicles rammed, that there are trained activists deployed. And by the way, we know at least one of those activists had a semi-automatic pistol with extra clips. So now you're an ICE officer, you're doing enforcement action, you've got a team behind you trying to protect you, you've got all these trained activists behind you. Is it any wonder they're at hair trigger alert? A tragedy was going to happen, and you encouraged it. And you ought to feel damn guilty about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, sit there and smirk. Smirk. It's sick. It is despicable.
Are you asking me for comment, Senator? Because everything you said was untrue. It was a nice theatrical performance, but it was all lies.
So what we see there is Ron Johnson talking and shouting at Keith Ellison, the Minnesota Attorney General. And frankly, Ron Johnson, I think, has the pulse, his finger on the pulse of most conservatives across the country.
Well, Ron Johnson has always been a patriot and will continue being a patriot. And, you know, I know Ron gets a lot of flack for the whole, I'm going to run 2 times. Well, I hope he runs 2 more times.
Glad you said it, because I'm ready to knock some doors.
You're right though. Ron he's saying exactly what I would have said. Mm-hmm. You know, I love the infallible Dan Schaefer. Ron Johnson's he's just spewing rhetoric and just yelling at him. It's like, okay, come on. We all know what these congressional hearings are. You bring him in, you yell at him, nothing actually really happens, and we move on with our day. Okay? This is nothing normal. Congress does this all the time. The Democrats do this. Republicans do this. So, like, okay. I mean, if the Democrats do it to us, like, yeah, I'm going to also, play from my high horse too. So I don't blame Dan Schaefer necessarily. But long story short, that's a bunch of words to basically say Ron Johnson knows exactly what to say. And just gets you fired up to, if the GOP was filled with 100 Ron Johnsons, boy, imagine the damage we could actually do on the federal government.
His voting record in a swing state, mm-hmm. Probably far better than good majority of the
red
GOP
states.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. And it's, the funny thing being is, everyone's like, oh, Ron Johnson for Senate Majority Leader. He could never do that, of course, because he's in the swing seat that he is. But honestly, at this point, why not? Ron Johnson, just an absolute patriot, and we love to see this. And it was, it's been a while since we've seen a Ron clip go this viral again. And he still got it. So right. Bring up another term.
Let's talk about Keith Ellison's probably one of the most despicable human beings that was elected to Congress in Minnesota. And then here he is smirking while he says that, because that's all he can really do. He can claim he's lying, but
and he didn't just have a smirk. You see the eye roll? Mm-hmm. I mean, he leaned back. He did an eye roll too. He's looking straight up, eyes going all the way in the back of his head. I mean, there was a serious, which probably pissed Ron off. And he's just like, Not today. Not today. But yeah, Keith Ellison, just a super hack. And he was on audio, and they talked about this at a different point in that hearing where Ron's like, you were on audio basically accepting bribes.
Yep.
You know, we're like, oh, I'll do this if you, donate or whatever. So,
and shockingly enough, he was the deputy chair of the Democrat National Committee while he was in Congress. Because, of course, again, as I've said before, and as many have said before, there's no doubt in my mind that the Somali fraud that was going on greased the wheels for the DNC through Keith Ellison. I think that's why Tim Walz was selected as the vice presidential candidate. He said, "Yeah, Kamala, Somalis are getting billions in fraud. We know about it. We can make sure that you get your taste of that if you put me on the ticket."
So, Sponge, you knocked doors for Ron before, so you're ready to do it again now?
I'm ready to do it again. It's the last candidate that I've knocked doors for. So
it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's been a while.
So, and we need to get more people out to knock doors, not just for Ron Johnson. That's in 2028, though. We need to do it, this year too. But yeah, so now I'm fired up. So thank you to Ron Johnson for setting the tone for the week for the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's go a little closer to home. Let's cross the Mississippi and talk about what's going on in the new Richmond School District. So as we covered in our prior episode, the new Richmond School District has decided to allow biological boys in girls' private spaces, in girls' restrooms, which we had already called is just completely offensive. And, you have women at that school protesting. They told by the principal that they should make those accommodations. They should accept it, or they can use the single stall bathroom. And then you have these lines, you have kids missing, being late to class because they don't want to share a space with some boy in a dress. And recently, the school board introduced a new policy that would effective immediately ensure that bathrooms and locker rooms are separated by biological sex. You'd think in New Richmond, in St. Croix County, that went 55%, I believe, for Donald Trump, that this would be a slam dunk no-brainer. But in the stunning betrayal of these hundreds of girls and parents, only 2 of the 7 board members voted yes. So that policy was voted down, and boys in dresses are still allowed in the new Richmond School District women's bathrooms.
Well, in one thing that I would like to know, now this is not an uncommon theme, though, is you'll have a heavy or tilt Republican district or Trump, district, depending on what race you're looking at. But then the board will be like supermajority liberal. So I don't know how you overcome that when, these local elections matter so much in everywhere. These local elections matter more than most of your federal elections. Now, obviously, they're very consequential, but these people are supposed to be voted in by the most localized community. So, if you have one of these people that are on your school board, the only person that you can blame is yourself. In many respects, I'm not saying you're the only person, but if you don't like the answer, you gotta either find a way to organize and get them out, or I don't know, maybe you should run, or not necessarily you or you, but just you listening potentially, do something about it.
The liberals, the administrators, they just don't get it. They keep going back to the same playbook. I don't know why they keep trying to force this as a issue. They're losing on an 80-20 wedge issue. And, at some point you got to get conservatives to step up and run for these everywhere, not just in your most conservative counties, or municipalities, but it's time where you take a stand and pretty much run everywhere. And interesting that, they'll go back to, they've pissed off more moms and dads. It's just the same playbook. I don't know why they keep going back to it for less than 1% of the population.
Exactly.
I don't
less
get
than
it.
1.
I mean, if you're a dad with daughters, like, how do you not want to go into those meetings just swinging at these clowns on the school board? Well,
and these clowns, they're, at least on New Richmond, they're all men. They're all men.
Beta status.
Yeah. Well, I called them eunuchs, which I guess there's multiple definitions to what a eunuch is. So I'll let the listener to pick the appropriate definition that they think applies to it. But I think they're overall just, completely if they have any daughters whatsoever, you would think that they would think twice about this. Now, there were at least one conservative on the board, and it was a 5-2 decision. So, and of course, great analysis by Dan Lennington, who from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, who came on the podcast last week and discussed this. So go back and listen to that as well if you want more context. But needless to say, they did get an earful, but they still voted this policy down. And so I don't know what you do now.
I don't get it. You can have one bathroom for the girls, one bathroom for the boys, and everyone else can have their private stall and get business done.
Why aren't they telling the boy in a dress to go use the single stall? Because he's the one who's causing this commotion. He's the one that is inconveniencing all these. But again, you have these liberal, progressive minded administrators and principal that think they need to roll out the red carpet and be completely welcoming of this, the mental
dangerous empathy mindset.
Now, one thing I do want to talk about is I said that this was a stunning betrayal of hundreds of girls and parents, and those aren't my words. Those are actually the words of congressional candidate Mike Alfonso. And I want to highlight the fact that because he has been feasting on this week. Like, he has been at the front of this. He's been leading the charge, and he looks like a good congressional candidate based off what he's doing here. He's putting out several videos. He talked about how the school board claims it has to let males into girls' bathrooms and locker rooms because of Title IX, which is a lie. Title IX prohibits sex-based discrimination. Sex does not mean so-called gender identity. When Richard Nixon signed Title IX into law in 1972, it wasn't to allow men into women's spaces. And Mike Alfonso said what he was going to do in Congress is clarify Title IX and define sex as biological male and female in federal law. And I think he's had probably the best week he's had as a congressional candidate by taking the lead on this issue.
I mean, you guys kind of know my thoughts on it, but I don't know where the other candidates are on it. I don't even think we know where some of the other GOP candidates, if they're even running or not. And, for some of the criticisms that I may have had due to his lack of resume, I think, you're right. He's hitting some of the strides on social media and been really highlighting this issue. And I think it's gonna play. Hopefully it plays well in the forthcoming April election and for his candidacy.
Well, as a Republican voter, I don't think you can get a much better story than, as much as I would love for all of these people to lose their election, and, I absolutely detest the fact that they are keeping this policy up. It's a good campaign issue, and it just also happens to be in the 7th congressional district. So it's like, this is quite literally the definition of a layup. So I can't imagine. I can't imagine why he wouldn't be there. And on top of that, it also happens to be, again, in the 7th congressional district, which Tom Tiffany is, of course, also utilizing. Now, he couldn't be there physically. I know he sent someone, and he had someone read a message for him from himself as well. So easy layup, total banger. This should be our Loudoun County 2.0. The only difference is the Loudoun County situation was just so grotesque because it was an actual physical assault. And this is just the policy. Now, both horrible, of course, in their own right. But the threat, the thing is, the threat of potentially an assault is not the same as it actually happening. And you don't want someone to get assaulted, like for politics, reasons. That would be horrible.
Or ever.
So this is, obviously, we just hope that they reverse course and everything can be fixed, and we can still hang the political fodder over the Democrats. But we'll see what happens.
And looking even closer to where we are, there's another high school that is going out of its way to cater to and quote unquote celebrate an unfortunate demographic of mentally ill individuals. So this came to us from Libs of TikTok. Dan O'Donnell talked about it. It happened just last week. Madison East High School held its 4th annual high school drag show at the Margaret Williams Theater at the high school. And they highlighted it by saying, enjoy a night of stunning performances by local pros and a few of our very own East students.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Now,
4th annual is shocking.
And Let me talk. There's a little thing at the bottom of
in
this.
Madison. Yeah.
Little thing at the bottom of this this flyer that they shared. Must show ID at the door to enter. So you
can't figure out your gender, but whatever gender is on your ID, you know.
Well, not just that, but you need an ID to get on an airplane. You need an ID to buy liquor. You need an ID to buy a firearm.
God
you need
forbid.
an ID to go to a drag show, but God forbid you show one to a vote at the polls to vote.
Brian Stahl had this video that went kind of viral about, our beer is safer than our vote. And it was kind of a good shtick, and,
Sure.
he put it out there. But he should, I went to the drag show in Madison. I'm kidding. Of course not. I shouldn't have done that. But honestly, I did put this out there also on X.com, the Everything app, of course. Who took the bullet and went to this show to actually see what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Not because they enjoyed it, but because of how grotesque and horrible it was. Local talent, I'm assuming that's just local drag show or, drag performers, but own students. Are we talking 18-year-old students? Or are we talking like 17, 16, 15-year-olds? Like, come on.
Right.
What are we doing?
I mean, we've all seen the videos from libs of TikTok of elementary school aged drag performers, quote unquote, having adult men throw money at them.
Well, not just throw money. We're talking like money in the waistband.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, just grotesque, disgusting behavior.
Which when I see stuff like that, I start thinking that all solutions are Fed posting, and I'm just going to leave it at that because anything else would get me in a lot of trouble. So the moral of the story is why the Democrats keep on pushing this, and it's so unpopular because this is one of the social issues we've actually, I don't want to say we've won.
Oh, the culture's tied.
The culture tides have
turned
turned against them. We've seen, of course, now with people suing the doctors now for these surgeries.
We'll get into that.
Well, yeah, of course. I'm not going to jump the gun. I'm just saying the tides are turning, but yet the Democrats, they're going to, as was captain goes down with the ship, because they're true believers on this. So they can't. And if they do jettison it, well, their base would hate them.
Placating to 1%, less than 1% of
Bad
America's
politics.
Hey, they need that. They need that vote, I guess.
I think appealing to the 1% is bad 99% of the time. Just simple math.
I mean, I can't imagine being on a political side where if you said something like, we should only have adults at drag shows, being the wrong thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Saying boys shouldn't use girls' bathrooms, being the wrong thing to say. Like, that will get you crucified in the modern Democratic Party.
Yeah, well, speaking of saying the wrong thing and trans person, Lee Snodgrass saying a lot of bad things, a lot of wrong things as well.
Let's play the clip.
What are we doing here? Why is this any of your business, Mr. Speaker? How somebody wants to inhabit their body, what they want to be called, what kind of medical care they need. This is none of our business. I see y'all. I see you on the other side with your spray tans and your hair dye and your hair extensions and your GLP-1s and all the things that make you feel good about who you are, who make you feel best as you can be in your body. That's you. You do you. Let other people do them. Do what they want to do.
So that was Lee Snodgrass on the floor of the state assembly having mixed Chardonnay and an SSRI to come up with the most insane possible thing to claim that Republicans have fake tans and hair extensions, and that is equivalent to genital mutilation.
Yeah, no one has ever, I might think you're a little bit, hey, it's January and you look like you just stepped out of, Florida after being outside for 2 weeks, but it looks bad. Like, yeah, okay, I could criticize someone for that, but I'm not going to equate it to, I don't know, chopping off genitalia, or HRT.
Yeah, long-term side effects from spray tan and hair extensions versus long-term side effects of, forever altering surgeries is not the greatest comparison.
And frankly, I having known the Republican Assembly caucus, I don't think there are many, if any, on that side who have hair extensions and fake tans. I see plenty of them all the time, and I know they have their real hair. And I would venture a guess that there's a few folks on her side that are more likely to Like Tip McGuire and Mike Barr? Kidding.
Potentially.
Joking. We're joking.
It's a
parody.
joke.
Parody.
It's a joke.
We're laughing.
It's a joke in Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
The GLP-1s, is that just like, that's your Ozempic?
That's semaglutides. Yeah, Ozempic. Yeah.
First of all, I will give Lee a bone here. GLP-1s, Ozempic, that should be reserved for like literal morbidly obese people. If you're just like 40 pounds overweight or something, or 20 pounds, I'm gonna shame you. Like, come on, just like have the willpower to actually just do it yourself. So I'll give her maybe some points there, although I don't think that there's anyone that literally is in the caucus. I don't know why she throws that in. There are so many other quote unquote trans arguments that are better than this one. For example, the suicide rate, although it's a misnomer and the suicide rate actually doesn't get better when they actually get the surgeries, the HRT, but it's a sympathetic argument. I mean, come on, it's an emotional argument. That one's so much better. But she goes to fake tans. That's your
Hair
ace in the hole.
extensions.
It sounds like someone's just,
Projecting.
maybe. I don't know. But the point being, her caucus has got to be mad at her. Like, that's your ace in the hole. Come on. I mean, as a minority member, not a literal minority, but as a member of the minority caucus,
we don't know. She may be transracial.
Well, you never know these days. What was her name? Rachel Dolezal. Yeah. Who am I to judge? But the minority party has all this time to prepare these arguments against these bills. And this is the brainchild.
Well, I was going to raise this point too. Why are we even discussing this? Like, why is this? I guess it's got to be the D's most pressing priority to push forward in the assembly. But we could be talking about, and we'll talk about the property tax issue, or heck, they could go another round on, passing legalized weed or some type of weed referendum. But nope, we're back. This is their issue. They love pushing this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the bill that was in question was regarding, I believe, suing these doctors and going through civil action. And the Democrats could just not talk on these things. Like, you have the option to not talk. But again, the true believers, they have to. They can't just let the bully Republicans, steamroll them, if you will. So they have to say this. But again, maybe prepare the statements better next time, or else we wouldn't be talking about you right now, because we only talk about, I don't want to say we only talk about, but usually if you mess up, yeah, we're going to talk about you.
I just want to address, though, that she's attacking the legislatures for using GLP-1s. That's semaglutides. That's the Ozempics. Those are actually good things. Those are products that are causing people to lose significant amount of weight. If you lose weight, you're less likely to have obesity-related diseases. And when you talk about Medicare spending, besides fraud, the largest thing that Medicaid and Medicare is paying for is obesity-related diseases. So GLP-1s, on the whole, are better for Americans to be using because they're going to lose weight, because they're going to be healthier. Whereas the American Society of Plastic Surgeons has just called for an end to trans surgeries of minors because of medical malpractice lawsuits. So, Sponge, give us your take there.
I mean, that's pretty big. We were talking about how the culture has changed on this issue. That's pretty big. I think both in adults and then for minors, it has changed tremendously for over the past 5 years. And it's great to see some healthcare associations and professionals start to finally push back on this. I wish it was for not only minors but also adults, but glad to see that we're starting somewhere.
And I would also like to see them reverse course, not just because of political pressure from the federal government.
Yes,
because it's the actual.
It's bad science. It's actually not even science. It's just it's
feels.
That's it. That's
social science.
It's the empathy, and the empathy has gone too far, and we're now clouding logic.
I agree.
Yeah. So the one recent court case was out of New York, where a woman who's now 22, who identified as a boy in her teen years, won a $2 million decision against doctors accused of pushing a double mastectomy on her while she was a minor when she was 16 years old. So she won a significant amount of money.
Not enough. Should've been
For
more.
this malpractice. And I think that's something that we need to have in our laws to protect children.
I mean, have you guys seen some of the images of these surgeries?
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
They will never look right. They will never act as the opposite sex, both in a sexual function, urinary function, etc. But I also put myself kind of in their shoes. Like, they will never understand what it feels like to actually breastfeed a baby.
No, it'll never be the same. Never be the same. But I think it's what's even more sinister is the male to female. And now this is, all right, no judge-free zone. But
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning. The male to female is quote unquote easier to be done. I would say it's easier to look like a female from male to female. Whereas when you're going from female to male, there's a reason why I think there's so many male to females compared to females to males. Yeah. And like, if we're talking about the surgical process,
well, I knew about that.
Oh, it's not great.
Over 20 years ago. I mean, South Park was lampooning this in 2005 when Mr. Garrison became Mrs. Garrison, and they showed that they showed images and video of that transition surgery in the animation program. Like it's vile. It's horrifying. Ridiculous. And it was cringeworthy for me then. And I was like, ooh, like I can't believe anyone's going to do that. And now we have this trend where I think, frankly, if you're a teenage boy who maybe thinks they're gay, maybe is gay, has these gender dysphoria, and you think the quick fix, the easy solution is to change your gender, you go to your parents, and your parents are these progressives or these wannabes that think they need to be part on the correct side of the culture. Like, jump in with both feet to this new identity that this boy needs to take, and they go off for it. And now you have these regrets, you have these detransitions. Now we have medical malpractice coming into it, which I think is going to save a lot of kids from a very traumatic and very consequential action they take when they're not in the right mind.
So, without divulging too much, but I think the profit motive, or I would say maybe the revenue motive behind here has kind of dissipated. Yeah. If we think about it, those that are probably having these are probably extremely wealthy.
People that can afford it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Cash payment or self-pay versus those that
on insurance.
Or the commercial insurance probably doesn't cover it, which this could be a whole other topic that could be later discussed, but
unless the government start requiring
exactly it. And that's where the D's ultimately want to go, because if they could get Medicaid or CHIPS, which is for children, to backstop this, and we saw this from Doge today. Doge today put out their analysis on Medicare fraud. Mm-hmm. If you think it's rampant now, what do you think it's going to be like if they could ever get power again and backstop that, or have the federal government backstop it? And then the state too. Yeah. Then Wisconsin D's would come in and say, "Well, we have to expand Medicaid coverage. This has to be done."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the Hospitals Association, they get clients for life, backed by the federal and state government. Mm-hmm. Let the money machines print. Flows from the hospitals to donors to back to the politicians.
Not just even you got the surgery on the upfront, which is extremely that's going to be a pretty heavily revenue producing, but then you have all the downstream from that. Yep. Okay, well, now we got them on the surgery, so let's get them on the therapy.
Right,
let's get them on the pharmaceuticals.
Right. You got decades of pharmaceuticals, and again, there's a lot of hospitals in Wisconsin that are going to see that as the cash. These trans kids are cash piñatas.
And it's great to see, at least, because I think it was Children's, right? Children's and UW.
Yeah, because of the federal pressure, they said they're not going to do the surgeries anymore.
Which is great to see in the interim, but unfortunately, if we don't codify that into law or
they'll just switch.
Exactly. Yep. And then the cash money keep flowing, start it right back up. And
these people, they're spineless cowards that they will bend to pressure, but, they're not. I'm sure there's plenty of people that had children that had to grit their teeth as they did this.
And not only as I try to put myself in the shoes of the surgeon, how do you go home to or sleep comfortably at night, or go home to your family at night and be like, yeah, what I did today was ethical, provided no patient harm, right? Like you can't say that was both ethical and provided no patient harm. And that they made, I would say, quote unquote, a killing in the procedure. It's medically, it's glad to see that there's finally pushback on it. The culture's changed on it. It's great to see. And
their stigma should be so strong. If someone's doing these, well, first of all, it should be illegal. It should be, but if we can't have that, like the stigma should be so bad that no hospital just even considers doing it without risking their entire practice.
Right. And I think with opening this up to malpractice lawsuits, I think
they
will
speak money.
Yeah.
Money.
Because imagine what the malpractice insurance for those providers is going to be.
Up the wazoo.
Yep.
So other stuff that happened in the legislature right now, Supreme More Omakunde, a.k.a. Sowande Ojumuke Omakunde, or a.k.a. the tire slashing Supreme Solar Allah, had some thoughts on a new scholarship bill for needy students, and he called it racist because it allows whites, Asians, and Middle Eastern students to apply. And he prefers that it only be open to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And we're going to play this clip right now.
It is an African tradition that before you address a group of people, you ask an elder for permission to speak. Today I rise with the permission of Mr. Steve O'Connell, who is an elder in the 17th Assembly District. Mr. Speaker, I'm a Generation Xer, and we like to keep it real, so I'll just call it what it is. Mr. Speaker, this is a racist bill. With all of the problems our state faces today, we simply don't have time to be giving any air to this ridiculously racist culture war bill.
Right. So again, we have a scholarship bill for needy students being called racist by Supreme More Omakunde.
I think this comes at no surprise. But first of all, I just wanted to, can you read off, what is, now I know his name is Representative Supreme More Omakunde, but what was the other?
So he has been known by the names Sowande Ojumuke Omakunde and Supreme Solar Allah at various points. And of course, in 2004, More Omakunde, then known as Sowande Ojumuke Omakunde, was one of 5 volunteers for the John Kerry campaign charged with felony destruction of property in connection with an incident where they slashed the tires of 25 cars and vans owned by or rented by the Republican Party of Wisconsin in the parking lot of their Milwaukee office, which was to get individuals to the polls.
Guys, that's just democracy working. That's just democracy at work.
He's a freedom fighter.
Yeah. Well, so this is 2018 called, it wants its talking points back. Like, this bill's racist. Racism, the word racist means nothing to
Everybody's racist now.
Yeah, everything is racist. Everything, every person. I don't care. Like,
water,
can we use
the air?
Everything it can
Golfing.
be racist. I'm just so tired of it. Can we just use any other descriptors besides racist? It legitimately means nothing. And when, I like the word personally. I know it's also kind of leftist coded, but actual racial bigotry, that when I hear racial bigotry, now when the left uses it, I still think it's kind of toned down. But when I hear racial bigotry, I'm like, okay. That's, I think, actual racism, not just, this bill I doesn't like, and it's not DEI for certain minorities, and not everyone, and now everyone can apply for it. Therefore, I don't like it. Therefore, it's racist. Like, that's just, it's quite literally the bottom of the barrel thinking, like sub room temperature IQ. Like, we're so done with that. The left has pushed the envelope on quote unquote race and racism and all isms, to be quite honest, that it means nothing. And frankly, I think independent people are just tired of this.
It might be a new shock to Wisconsin Democrats, but poor white kids deserve the same opportunities, same opportunity to education, economic achievement as their black and brown peers.
Right. And they're facing a lot of similar disadvantages. And I think that's actually what this bill did. So the Legislative Reference Bureau analysis that under this bill, the term disadvantaged with respect to a student means having experienced any unfavorable economic, familial, geographic, physical, or other personal hardship. The term may be further defined by rule, but may not include the consideration of 1, a student's race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation, or religion, or 2, a student's identity as a member of a group without regard to individual qualities. So
Lily just says you can't use race as a basis.
mm-hmm.
That seems like a pretty clear cut. You know, if Democrats ever read the bills, maybe they would agree with them. And I would hope that listeners, as well as other people, maybe even Democrats that listen to the show, I don't know, maybe there's a few of them
that get spray tans.
Yeah, potentially. So that being said, I hope they would read the bills and be like, oh, and you read it in layman's terms, it's not all that bad. And then they see the comments from Supreme Moore, Omakunde, whatever the secondary name that you had given him or that he had.
Supreme Solar Allah.
Yes. Forgive me. God bless you. I totally the name was so long, I forgot my train of thought.
It's okay.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at this point. Anyone have any other comments before we move on?
The only other commentary I would add is, so, explicitly, the bill calls out you can't discriminate based on race or identity or whatnot. But the bill's purpose, I actually think, is pretty solid, right? So if you grew up without a mother or paternal guidance, you are able to apply, and your life story matters, and your individualistic qualities and your background and your upbringing plays that's going to be the determining factor, and I think that's great.
I would agree.
So let's look to the Senate.
Not often said on this podcast.
No, but not in a positive light. But this one is in a positive light. I just want to play this clip from Romaine Quinn, who is a rock star state senator from the northern part of Wisconsin, someone who we kicked around as a potential candidate for Congress, and someone who is doing a fantastic job and has a long future in this. This clip is just incredible. So this has to do with the fees related to animal markets, dealers, truckers, and transportation vehicles, which the governor and the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection jacked up the fees on this by, I believe, 1,700%. And I got that figure, I believe, from Liz Wolnick at AFP. But this is Romaine Quinn, who authored a bill to reel those fees in and actually stand up for farmers.
What a bunch of garbage. This is fourth grade civics stuff. How stupid is that? That is insane. So let's be clear about why we're even here. Governor Evers allows his agency to introduce a new rule with 1,700% fee increases. They could have came forward and said, this program is not sustainable, it's going to go down, and we're not going to be able to trace disease across the state. Where was DACAP? Complete failure on the Secretary of the Governor's office. And then to fix it, instead of going through the process, Governor Evers allows his agency to introduce a new rule with 1,700% fee increases. And then we're supposed to accept, which the groups still don't support, an inflationary increase for the last 15 years. And by the way, you got to eat it in 1 year. That's the department's solutions today. So let's be clear about why we're even here. Our oversight has been gutted by a Supreme Court who thinks that the state of Wisconsin, the people of the state of Wisconsin, should be ruled by agencies, not their elected senators, not their elected representatives. And we have to pass a bill to stop an agency from increasing taxes. How stupid is that? That is insane. This is fourth grade civics stuff. If you ran this by any school kid, to think that your elected representatives don't have a say in this process is nuts. And frankly, this budget we voted for added 4 positions for animal health. So for all of you that voted no on the budget, you did not vote for 4 new positions for animal health. So to be clear, the groups still do not support the increase getting rammed through by the department. And we're going to sit here and do nothing. This is all in the department. It's bad planning, poor budgeting, or they just don't care. I don't know which one it is. And we're going to take our authority back as a body and do our job and not allow unelected agencies to continue to sock our producers with no...
So just a chef's kiss to the Wisconsin Senate Republicans there and their comms team. Whoever cut that, they added the music to the background. Fabulous job. Just a brilliant cut. And thank you to Senator Romaine Quinn for standing up for farmers and pushing back on these enormous increases in fees that they're facing right now.
Well, I'm not going to add any extra commentary on the merits of what he said because I think it's pretty obvious. Yeah, I agree with everything he said. I don't have any 10 out of 10 no notes. However, I do want to give, not that this is also anything necessarily new, but Senator Quinn does a lot of good social media. And I would also argue he's, at least in the Senate, I think it's one of the better ones in the Senate. And if now I know we don't want to judge everything based off of quote unquote views, but they do fairly well, these little videos he does. And maybe it has something to do with the fact that he is a legislator that can open a PDF file, like
we need more of those.
We need more of those. I love our legislators. I love everybody. But having some younger people, as quote unquote young people ourselves, it is nice to see quote unquote younger people kind of speak the way maybe we would speak, do the things that we would do, mog on people in Instagram.
Hard edits.
Yeah, making an edit. I've been known to make a few edits of certain legislators as well. But if we have that coming out of official accounts, it'd be kind of funny. So yeah, basically just kudos to Senator Quinn for doing that and for doing a lot of good videos and getting the message out there.
I don't fully understand the context of it, but I do know that this story got significant play. And for Democrats that are going to be up in maybe some of the more swingy areas and
more rural.
Yep. And Wisconsin's third, or whatever else we got left up in the 7th that we have to flip yet. But for those, they're going to have to explain their vote on why. Do we know what the cost was previously to what it's moving to, and is it per unit or whatnot? I'd be very curious to know kind of where that landed.
1,700% is a lot.
Yeah,
yeah. I think it went from a
couple bucks to hundreds or thousands.
Yeah. I don't think it was a couple thousand, but I think it was either under 2 digits or just at 3 digits, and then the 1,700% put it way over $1,000.
Well, and there's nothing
per head too.
And I think now there's nothing that we can do to fight back on this, right? Because if we take this, where do you think it's going to end up if we fight back on it? The several witches of the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
That's true. So if I remember correctly, and of course, we just have to have Dan Leddington on retainer for all legal, all legal expertise. But I'm fairly certain that the Supreme Court ruling that I believe was it Markeline? It was the Markeline ruling, which essentially said that the Joint Committee on JCRER, which that committee would basically is an administrative rule committee, where they review the administrative rules that are proposed by the
Joint Committee on review of administrative rules.
Pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. So the department comes with a rule. It goes to the committee. They get thumbs up or thumbs down, and they can thumbs down it, and then they have to go back to the drawing board. Well, that ruling basically said, nope, they don't need to do that. So these departments can just implement rules without any oversight. Unelected bureaucrats basically can dictate policy without any input from the legislature, which I think is one of the most, forget about gerrymandered quote unquote maps and throwing those out from the Supreme Court, but having the administrative rules basically be able to be rubber stamped is a huge issue. So this bill is basically just to go to Evers' desk to get vetoed.
And what I truly hope is that Tom Tiffany is sitting in the governor's desk and then can utilize that Supreme Court ruling to its full advantage.
Make them eat every word of allowing them to do this in the first place.
I know he's got a great team behind him, and I hope there'll become a day when they'll be able to think about that and be able to go, well, if we don't need to go through the JCRAR process, we don't need to go through rules, let's just slap all these rules and see if the libs light their hair on fire and the 4 shrews on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Rein them in? Go ahead. I would love nothing more than the Democrat Supreme Court to rein in the executive. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I just hope Tiffany's war room is ready to go on this. Not only pushing the clip, but I guarantee you they're hammering this issue hard, and it's hopefully good to see the play.
Yep. And kind of speaking of the politics of legislating, Shadow Gov, I know you want to set up this next clip for us from Representative Greta Neubauer. and kind of one of the tricks that the minority pulls this time of year.
Yeah, so this is a clip from, again, the minority leader, and it's going to be talking about a bunch of nonsense, but there is a reason behind it, and it's most people don't probably think about this. Oh, I know that they don't think about this, but it is very consequential come November. So here's the clip.
Hi everyone, it's Greta Neubauer here in the state capitol. I just left the assembly floor after a full day where Republicans, unfortunately, did everything in their power to avoid taking votes on issues that are important to our constituents, including protecting the right to abortion and contraception in state law. We only have 1 week of session left. We need Republicans here in the legislature to take up bills on affordability, funding our schools, and protecting our rights and freedoms. Please join me in calling on the Republican majority in the Assembly to take up these important bills in the next week.
Long story short, that was a whole bunch of commie gobbledygook that really doesn't, I mean, if someone sees that, I mean, this video has got like what?
277.
Yeah, 279
and
views.
Half of them are ours while we were
just
reviewing
replaying
the clip.
it. Yeah. So no one's really seeing this, but there are going to be a lot of people in November that see this. What they do, it's at the end of the session, they will propose these amendments to bills on the floor, and the amendments usually have nothing to do with the bill. But you know, you could be talking about I don't know, regulating literally anything, and they'll attach some abortion bill to it, and then they'll say, well, if you vote this amendment down, you voted against repealing the old draconian abortion ban from 1840, whatever it was. And then they run that on a campaign ad because there's a sliver of truth. You voted against something that would have done it, even though it wasn't germane or it wasn't even related to the bill. It's all, you know, people, I would say normal people hate that stuff. They hate the political gamesmanship. I love it. But you know, I don't like it when it's happening to me, but normal people hate that stuff. But that is why the Democrats get these campaign ads come November. It's because they pull stuff like this that it's really inconsequential.
Do you get it at the federal level too?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I fully support doing it to the Democrats. But when they do it against me, I'm angry because I want them to lose and me to win.
The procedural votes for the SAVE Act, right? Voter ID, they won't vote to advance it, so you can cut the ad and say, there you go.
Yeah.
Although I hope we actually.
It sounds like they're at 49 votes, but I haven't seen the whip recently because Mike Lee has been doing the whip on X. But that aside, this is a very traditional thing that the minority party does. They do they'll introduce these amendments that aren't germane to the bill. And so they'll end up possibly voting on not the amendment itself, but on the germaneness of the amendment. So yes, Greta.
But you still voted against it?
Right. So Greta says we want this amendment, and we say, no, Greta, this is a bill to rename a bridge in Fond du Lac County. The other one they'll do is pulling motions on bills. So what they'll do is they'll have 90% of the bills that the minority party, especially the Democrats, put out in this case, are these hyper-partisan, things that will trigger the deranged, woke, white, Chablis drinking women of the left. And they'll do these they'll introduce this bill, then it'll be assigned to a committee, and they'll try to do this pulling motion. So pulling motion means let's bring it out of committee and vote on it. And the Republicans will be like, no, we didn't have a hearing on this. There's no reason to have a pulling motion on it. And so they'll shoot down, again, not the legislation itself, but the motion to bring it out of committee. And so what they'll then say is, well, they refuse to hear this bill, or they refuse to vote on this bill. And
there's this bill to make sure everyone gets a puppy. And if you vote against it, you want to kill puppies or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Then they can run ads that you want to kill puppies. And there you go. That's what voters see. And it's a tool. It is what it is. And the thing is, the Democrats barely need a reason to go after people on any issue. They just need one thread to attach someone to an issue. And this gives it to, this is the vehicle. That's all it is. So
it's just a time wasting measure for the legislators while they're on the floor, and then it's just a campaign talking point in November.
Now, granted, if one of the bodies that have a Republican majority now go in the minority, absolutely do this 10 times more than the Democrats do. But I will decry it now because of the partisan hack that I am.
Really focusing heavy on abortion. Wasn't that the whole point of electing their left-wing radicals, the Wisconsin Supreme Court? Whatever happened to that? Where's that at? You know,
that's a great question. That's a great question. I don't know.
Well, if I'm a donor, if I was a major Dem donor to all of these liberal candidates on the judiciary, where's my decision? You said it was coming.
Well, they want their maps. They want their maps.
They want their maps. They want their sanctuary state. They want the repeal of Act 10. And I think it could backfire if they do any of those between now and September, October of this year.
I don't know. Well, you know, the average voter has the memory of a guppy. And so most people forget about this stuff. Unlike me, I will never forget.
They'll drop it July 3rd.
That's true. They'll drop it. Yeah, they will drop it on
weekends.
the holiday weekends. The Friday before Labor Day or Memorial Day.
Or nice 3-day weekend or something. Yeah, they love to do that. And of course, this Supreme Court's very inactive as well. So they've been sitting on a lot of stuff. We'll have to see what happens. But in the meantime, we wait.
So Shadow Gov, then tell us what's going on about property tax relief and some of the negotiation between the Assembly, Senate, and Governor Evers when it comes to some sort of use of the surplus, or maybe some income tax rebates. Tell us everything.
So I'm going to use a quote that was uttered this week because it kind of sums up my thoughts on this. I have no idea what's going on. So myself and the Senate Majority Leader are on the same page. Senator
banger quote from him being like, I don't know what's going on.
Senator LeMahieu did an interview where essentially he didn't know what was going on, and it is hard to follow, but bear with me. Essentially, there is a surplus of funds in state government currently, and a larger than predicted a surplus of funds. And so everyone's kind of saying, well, what should we do with it? Should we sit on it? Should we spend it? Should we try to cut taxes with it? And Governor Evers, being the moderate Democrat that he is, and me being the moderate lifelong Democrat that I am, agreed on property taxes. And so there's actually been some quote unquote bipartisanness on, well, maybe we should do some property tax relief. However, that always comes with a big, but. And Governor Evers wants to attach, I think, a bunch of public spending as well. And there was I believe an email that the governor's office, I don't want to say leaked, but they just sent it to the media.
Well, they sent it to Jesse Opie, who is the dutiful stenographer of the Democrat Party, and will do whatever Tony Evers says, and any chance she has to do something to highlight the governor and bash Republicans, she is first in line to do it.
Yeah, so there was a number. There was a couple of proposals. So it wasn't just property taxes. It was, I believe, special education was part of it. Yeah, here we go. $200 million in special education funding, $450 million for general school aid in 2027 to buy out the projected statewide school property tax levy, $550 million towards property tax relief through the school levy tax credit, and then $97 million in 2027 to exempt taxes on cash tips. So it sounds like the cash tips might be the quote unquote vehicle for this bill. So because he did say in his State of the State last year that he would sign tips. What is it?
No tax on tips.
No tax on tips. Jeez. But now he's saying, okay, well, let's just sneak a couple $1 billion in there. Of course, there's a huge bit of it for schools, which is the concerning part. Not necessarily that money to schools is bad, but they already got like a bunch of money, and now he's asking for more because there's always more. And so what do you guys think?
Sponge, do you have some thoughts on school funding?
I don't know. It just seems ironic that we're giving more money to schools, but at the same time, we're trying to do a rebate to lower the property taxes that are supposedly funding said schools. So
yeah, it seems kind of counterintuitive, maybe a little. Well,
Democrat logic here.
Well, of course, the governor had the brilliant idea of paying local governments not to raise your local taxes. My tax dollar, it's like the meme, my tax dollars, somehow also my tax dollars, somehow also my tax dollars. literally the one of the most dumbest proposals I've ever heard is the state government passing or sending locals money so they don't tax you. It's like, what? This is just circular. This is the stupidest thing in the world. And this is kind of the same thing where it's like, hey, we want to reduce property taxes. Maybe don't have a referendum all the freaking time. Maybe actually try to do some legitimate cost cutting measures. Now, I'm not saying that referendums are inherently bad. Like,
sure,
I do like the idea of that they have to be ratified by the people where they, that live there. So there is some accountable. Of course,
new stuff that you got to build. Makes sense.
I mean, all those buildings that were built in the 60s, I mean, they're all old now. A lot of them have to be upgraded, torn down, or redone.
But when you have half the class size,
exactly,
of when that was produced in the 60s,
plus administrators,
and you doubled or tripled.
When you got 100 new administrators, you got to pay for. Yep.
And they're all DEI and woke administrators. They're third vice principals.
The idea of sending those people a bunch of money to have fun with, does not breed like a whole lot of trust. Now, granted, I don't think that the school district, out in, I don't know, New Richmond is going to be like super woke or anything. Oh wait, never mind. They're everywhere. There's woke. There's woke school boards everywhere across.
I don't know. That one in Madison can pay for a drag show. So
yeah, they have.
That's line item right there in the budget.
Can you open records request the Madison East for what they pay these people?
Yeah, you don't even need to open records request. That's all. That's all information that's available.
Someone should do that. Listeners, there's got to be a smart person. Someone should make an inquiry to see if they paid any of these drag performers any money, because if you're an angry parent, you should probably know that. But
and I would assume the academic standards of Madison East probably aren't doing too hot,
right? So. No, that's the other side of this is for all this increased spending we've seen, we have not seen an increase in.
We've seen it actually go down.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen a decrease in student proficiencies. To the point where we used to make fun of Mississippi and Louisiana and Alabama for having lower schools proficiencies, and now
proficiency,
right, and now Wisconsin is the lowest Black achievement in the country. And
now bringing it back though real quick to property taxes, which is the impetus of this, and then we can probably move on. But there seems to be kind of like what Senator Lemahue said, he has no idea. There's just a little confusion, I think, on what exactly the plan should be on how to deal with this money. It's $2 billion. That's a lot of money to try to divvy up. So I think there's just some disagreement. The Senator Lemahue, though, put out a release that said they will return the surplus directly to taxpayers, rebate checks. So he said Senate Bill 1 will provide married joint income tax filers with $1,000 income tax rebate and provide all other filers with $500 income tax rebate. Now that's actually it's a size. It's not just like a $60 check or something. Like that would be insane. But I'm assuming this would take the majority of the surplus money. And I believe he wanted to, at least originally, attach it to the repealing of the 400-year veto.
Yep.
And that's where I think the disagreement is, because I think Voss wants to hold Evers accountable for that come 2026, which I wanted to make 2 quick points on this. One, for the listeners at home that have been following along.
Trying to.
Yeah, exactly. This story has remained in Wisconsin state media since the actual veto happened. And
it comes up every once in a while, yeah.
And I think Governor Evers and Team D, expected the veto to happen, kind of it to go away. There'd be some ruffling of the feathers for a little bit, and it stayed the course. And I think this will be if it's not already, it needs to be the defining campaign issue of 2026. It touches on the affordability piece, which Democrats love to harp about all the time, yet they raised property taxes for the next 400 years by some asinine means. But 2, if I'm Tom Tiffany, every day, comms guys, the social media guys got to be hammering this hard. I know they have, but this has got to be like the key marquee ad come election season after the primary's done.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, which is why this proposal is so interesting, though, because they want to repeal it. Now, I don't think if this were to come to the governor's desk. Like, he's not going to repeal his own veto. As much as he probably has gained a bunch of flack for this, the idea of him repealing his own, like that, he can't do that. He's not going to do that. He's
Imagine how
retiring.
embarrassing that would be for his legacy. The education governor repeals his own veto to fund schools that they have been wanting for a decade plus.
And of course, so he's not going to do that, though, because he's retiring. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about any political hit. He's just going to go down with the ship. He's going to go down with the 400-year veto, which, in all honesty, it helps us.
And it could cost the election to his successor.
Yes.
Well, I think they're having their own issues.
There's plenty. Yes, there are plenty.
Rodriguez can't even get off the ground at the moment, and Progressive Wing's having some fun. So.
Yeah, they're having a lot of fun snipe at each other over ice positions and whatnot.
Now, I had to look this up, but I recall in 2018, Scott Walker did a rebate, but what the Senate's actually looking for is about 10x what the governor's rebate was in 2018. That was only about $100 per kid.
Yeah, it wasn't
and so
great.
Talking about $1,000, that's more measurable. That's
someone could actually feel that, and because the stimmy shimmies were what, $2,000?
Yep, and I think I frankly I know I've been critical of the Senate leadership. Don't hide that at all, but $1,000 is a cleaner, simpler, and I think
with a repeal of 400
with the
it's got to be dead.
Yeah, and it sounds
got to be something else.
It sounds like the Assembly's plan won't have the 400-year veto overridden as a part of this bipartisan negotiation. But I bristle at the idea of $650 million in school aid that, again, to schools that are failing.
Yeah, and then the final point that I'll make, and then I'll turn it over to you, is that if, let's just say, who knows what'll happen, because this is all could probably change. Probably by the time this is released, by the time you're listening to this could all be old news by now. If nothing gets off the ground, I guess the worst that happens is $2 billion just sits in the kitty. However, if one or more of the chambers flip for whatever reason, Democrats just get $2 billion worth of play money because of good governance from Republicans. And you don't think Democrats are going to find a way to spend $2 billion? I mean, look at Minnesota. They had a double-digit billion-dollar surplus, and they turned it into a deficit. Democrats will take the $2 billion and give it to all their friends and give it all to their little pet projects and spend us into a deficit.
Sure. That's where I could see it ending up, and you're going to end up in a Minnesota situation. I think for me, biggest thing is I always love when they claim that there's always a surplus. There's always a surplus. No, it's my money. Give me my money back. You guys have either overtaxed or over projected or over forecasted rather for the budget. It's my money. Give it back. And it selfishly, I don't want a rebate. Just lower my tax bracket. Just cut the tax bracket, consolidate it, etc. It's just, I guess I always get frustrated whenever they claim, it's a surplus. No, well, it's a surplus because you guys tax me too much. Give me my money back.
And it's a lot. And we've, the last couple of years though, it's been surplus this, surplus that. Like, it's multiple.
It could change really quick. I mean, if they do get rid of Act 10 and some stuff,
that's gone.
If stuff flips, exactly. So then you're going to end up in the same situation where Walker walked into in 2010, where they were ballooning deficits and
they had to do the budget repair bill. That was Act 10. That was the way to save money. And while we're on the topic of schools, and I can't figure out a better way to shoehorn this in, I do want to highlight the school district of Waukesha. They are going to become debt-free very soon.
Good for them.
Because and saving taxpayers nearly $1.6 million in interest having paid off their loans early. So good for that district. That's smart budgeting.
But it's funny because I may or may not have a connection there. They have been the liberal school board members and their opponents that they're trying to get on. They have been criticizing heavily the district's decision to close some of these schools. Mm-hmm. Well, how do you think they've been able to keep it out of the red and in the black, or at least trending upward? You got to consolidate if enrollment's going down. I know that they don't want to hear that, but but you have to consolidate schools. If your class size goes from 20 to 25, does it really make that much of an impact? If you have issues with that, how many administrative positions are you going to get rid of in exchange for that? I would be 100% on board with hiring more teachers and more special ed teachers, because I know that's the other thing they always harp on, which is fine and respectable. But then how many administrative positions are we getting rid of?
Exactly. It has to be a 1-to-1 almost.
What is like the old school building that it's like underutilized? It's under like 50% capacity that we don't need, and we could spread people out through 2 other neighboring schools, where the school visit or the commute to that school, like what, then one
the
that's
5-minute extra drive.
Yeah. So great. Good job for them. I mean, debt free for a government entity.
And this
unheard of.
Highlights one of our earlier topics in that, this is because conservatives got on the board, because people started paying attention, and we had people who ran for those seats that are good conservative candidates that are making smart budget decisions, and they have a majority. Now, they don't have a complete majority, because there is at least one member who said, oh, goody, we can basically start raising taxes again because we have this, or that we shouldn't be paying off these debts because we need to make ends meet in other ways. And she got shot down, thankfully, because I think it was the majority, again, are conservative, but you still have these one liberals. And once they have that toehold still, like they're still.
She's kind of a low IQ person, though.
If it's the one that I'm thinking of, I've actually dealt with her in a previous.
Diane Voigt.
She's the only one. Yeah. She's the only Democrat that's on the Waukesha School Board.
Thankfully, she's in that.
And thank you for everyone that beat the liberals to get them out there. I wish the city of Waukesha was a better financial fiscal health than the school district, which is why there's a nice mayoral election coming up this spring,
and it is a very strong separation between the two candidates. You have Scott Allen, who is a smart, well-thinking,
a staple in Waukesha,
who's a good conservative, and you have a deranged, woke, liberal, progressive.
See, I don't even like the labels, right? Like, remove the conservative label. Just he's been a legislator, and he knows how government works. All right, and then let's flip to the contrast, who I think is not a county supervisor position, but
she's in the city council.
That's what it is.
And is like a Democrat organizer.
Yep,
like,
exactly. Yep.
No real resume, no real skills. And Scott Allen, again, has a strong, very smart man. And you have someone else who's barely room temperature IQ, and again, maybe refrigerator level IQ.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, hey, those elections are coming up very soon. So if you live in Waukesha, make sure
or anywhere. If you have open races anywhere,
I know.
Filed,
this podcast isn't relegated to just Waukesha politics, but often that sometimes feels like it is. But for the entire state, look at obviously what's going to be on your ballot and everything.
And credit to Dan O'Donnell. He's putting together this conservatives voter guide. We're going to help out with that as much as we can. So we know the conservatives in our area, and if you're a listener, again, do the same. Do a favor to any of the conservatives that are running it, and get them in touch with Dan O'Donnell, and make sure that when they're sending that email to Dan, include the district number, or the village or the community you're running in, the district number, and some proof that you're a conservative, something that shows whether it's a picture with you and Scott Walker and Alex Walker, like one of the women running for the Sussex Hamilton School District did. Or proof that you're a county party member, whatever it is. Make sure you stack that resume to show that you're the right candidate.
Is he still doing the radio show where they call in?
Yes, he's still going to do that big voter guide.
One of my all time favorite every year when that rolls around.
But
we may not like spring elections, and we wish we could consolidate them. But if the one time DOD runs the show, it's good.
I sometimes think that moving the spring elections to fall, yes, you get better voter engagement, but then is it too many people on the ballot? Does the ballot get too long?
So I have strong opinions on this. I think it should be one primary, one general. Okay. So I personally don't even think we should have the primary in August. I think that should be bumped up to like June.
I tend to agree.
And then we have the November general, and that I would want everything on that ballot. Now, my father and I disagree a lot over this, because I think it was Arizona's presidential ballot last go around was like 2 pages.
Yeah, that can get long.
Yeah, and he's like, no, you got to have 2 elections for this. And I'm like, I'd rather have one and done.
What I would like to see for our primary is not have the presidential primary on the same day as the general election for these statewide offices. I would like to see our presidential primary moved to the spring primary date, which is February. That's going to be the 17th or 23rd, whatever it is, like that mid-February range. It makes Wisconsin more relevant. It saves the headaches for, again, right now we're the ones that, the Republican side is the one that's facing some issues when it comes to voter turnout. When you have Trump on the ballot and he's, running unopposed in the primary, and you have this competitive primary for the presidential years, but that could flip just as easily. And I think Democrats, frankly, would benefit from that too. And to have it on a different day. And yes, I think the partisan primaries need to be moved up as well. Because, it used to be in September. It was like September 14th. It was the second Tuesday in September. That was changed in the early days of the Walker administration. But yeah, when he ran against Mark Newman in that primary, he won in September, and they moved it up to August. And I think, again, July or June might even be better, because that sprint from August to November it
is a sprint
to consolidate your base, to bring on the disaffected. Yeah. To bring on the disaffected.
The
voters,
incumbency is huge at that point.
Right.
Which of course, at least for this governor race, we don't have an incumbent. So it'll be,
and the Dems won't have a clean candidate either.
We should pass a bill last minute that means the Democrat primary is like Halloween or something. So they'll have their primary. They have like a week and a half to consolidate around Francesca Hong, and then we win.
What a Halloween surprise that would be it.
Yeah, an October surprise. Yeah.
So speaking of that, though, Speaker Voss was.
This is like a little candy.
Yeah,
this is
a little candy here. So Speaker Voss was on a panel with Diane Hesselbein and Greta Neubauer. We're going to play that clip quick. He talked about the governor's race on the Democrat side.
I have a theory that I think that most of the people who are running will also be swept away by the bigwigs in the Democratic Party, where they say, look, we need to focus on one person to be able to win for the governor's race. They did it in 2022. I don't know why they wouldn't do it this time. So we'll see, but it's going to be a competitive race. We live in a purple state. It'll probably be decided by 20 or 30,000 votes, like most elections have been. And that's why the person in my mind who focuses most on improving people's lives in Wisconsin, not just criticizing other people all the time, will be victorious.
Diane, did you want to respond to that?
So much there. No, I would say what happened in the primary with U.S. Senate is the 2 other people chose to get out. That was not the Democratic Party putting their thumb on the scale. It was not. You can talk to them if you don't believe. Yeah, actually, they would tell you that. Yes, sure. That's exactly.
They spend millions of dollars, and then just at the end, I'm out.
I think they realized they were not going to be successful.
They were not going to be successful, and they saw their own polling. So that's what happened.
Remember the day Alex Larcy dropped out?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was like a big deal because I think that he was the last one standing, right?
Was Lasry the last one? Who, by the way, dropped out, boarded his private plane to New York, and never looked back. Like, I don't think he has set foot in the state.
What's up with him?
Well, he's got running a DNC role,
and now he's running the. I think he's on the team running the World Cup, and that's out in New York and New Jersey.
Yeah. So he was part of the DNC. He's like, I forget what position he was even there, but he was only up to the presidential election, and after that, he's like, I'm out of town.
He pieced out.
Probably got something that's obviously it's probably pays more, has more influence. The man is just he's a ladder climber for the sake of climbing. But this clip, I don't know what it's so funny to me, and I hope everybody goes and actually watches the clip, because it starts off as any forum, they're up on those stupid bar chairs where they're super tall or whatever, and they're talking or whatever, and of course he says what everyone saw in 2022, which was, hey, the Democrat primary was not a primary. They just all happened to drop out within 2 weeks. And coincidentally, like less than a month before the actual primary. So it's, and he just calling it how everyone saw it, and then, but Diane Hesselbein, of course, well, and now she was nice about it. I'm maybe being not quite charitable. Well, that's not what happened.
Sure, Diane.
They just, they dropped out because they didn't see a path forward. Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Diane.
The Wisconsin GOP actually had a more competitive primary.
Yes.
If you guys, for those following along, the random challenger to Ron Johnson picked up 15% of the vote in that primary out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe it was just some disaffected Democrats playing along and having some fun, but
yeah, a little bit of playing in the primary.
Well, we've already called our shot on Operation Chaos 2.0 if the Democrats go into.
I've endorsed Sarah Rodriguez for governor. She's a MAGA patriot.
Well, as a lifelong Democrat,
a lifelong Democrat,
it has to be the position you take.
Correct. So this clip though is amazing because the sarcasm coming from Speaker Voss, just okay, yep, sure, yeah. They all just dropped. They all spent millions of dollars and said, you know what? I'm out. It's just he's every voter that has an ounce. Again, I know we've used it so many times, but above room temperature IQ knows that this primary. I mean, and lo and behold, of course, Sarah. I almost said Sarah Russell Rodriguez, who is our current lieutenant governor. The potential future lieutenant governor in Sarah Godlewski just happened to drop out, and then. Lo and behold, they did the switcheroo where La Follette,
Dougie Doug runs, wins. He's a wiener, by the way. Doug La Follette is a wiener.
Yes. Then he resigns, and then Godlewski just happens to get that position. See, when you run all the institutions, you can do this. You can give all your friends all these nice, fun positions. And this is just you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And so you get a nice little job. And of course, Alex Lazary got the DNC job. That was his payment.
He also just wanted anything to get out of Wisconsin.
Correct. Also,
I think his dad sold his stake in the Bucks right before that. So he's like, I have no reason to be here anymore.
Yeah, I wish I could run for Senate on a whim. And then who else dropped? Was it someone else that dropped out?
There was
Kelda. No, sure, he wasn't running for Senate.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm drawing a blank.
There was an Indian, I think, businessman or entrepreneur, and I can't remember.
But he didn't get enough vote.
I remember that guy. He had very nice hair.
I think he went through to the primary though.
And I think he originated out of Brookfield. I think.
I can't remember.
I can picture him.
I don't know.
But he didn't actually drop out though. He saw because he only polled I think 5% or something. But yes. We know what happened with the primary. The regular folks out there know what happened with the primary. The Democrats trying to gaslight everybody that their primary wasn't rigged. Thank you, Speaker Voss, for the sarcasm, for the laughs. I don't know. It was just such a hilarious, such a break from the normal, politicking of government officials. So check that out.
It was a great clip. So if they were to start having people drop out, who do you think goes first?
Kelda, who is not running a serious candidate race anyways. She is, you can't look at her as a serious candidate for office anymore. When you have Francesca Hong squeezing her out on the progressive side, when you have
the lane's just not there.
The lane's not there. The financing isn't there. Her largest donation came from her husband and her.
That's probably her best course of action is to drop out and endorse Mandela. It's probably her best course of action, just to throw your weight behind someone that you think, and then hopefully they win and can maybe take you with them in a way.
If you take it to that step, then Barnes may actually end up being the nominee.
Well, it'd be even more funny is if Kelda dropped out and ran for lieutenant governor.
I'm glad you said it because I didn't want to say it, but yeah, that would be something.
And so you would get a competitive primary for lieutenant governor because then Kelda would have had a better shot at governor if she was the incumbent lieutenant governor. Because at least with Kelda, if she were lieutenant governor, I think she would actually do something with the position compared to Sarah Russell Rodriguez, which just did nothing.
No one knows who
years.
She is, and she can't get social media traction. I mean, I think Josh Shulman has a better social media traction than she is.
I think she's done a lot of these videos, and now granted, it's anecdotal that they pop up in my feed and such, but I do think that she's done a decent job of attacking Tiffany or trying to pair herself as the pseudo challenger. But this whole nonsense about
it doesn't work. She's the incumbent. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, but I think that her her whole comms mishap about this ICE stuff just really.
She just misspoke. What are you talking about?
She just misspoke with bad comms. So I think between Kelda, I think Sarah will eventually, because I think people are going to have to realize I have to throw my weight behind someone for any chance of any influence.
The only thing I would say about
to move.
Sarah is, doesn't she have money coming in from
the Democrat Lieutenant Governors Association?
Yeah,
Yep.
wonder how influential that truly is. But yeah, I could see that. The other lane that's going to close probably really quickly is going to be like the Missy Hughes and then
Joel Brennan.
Yeah.
They're going to one of those two will have to drop, but I don't think either of them will, because I think Missy has a bit more grassroots support. I know this because she texts me at least once a day asking for money that, again, either she has the worst lists imaginable or I live rent-free in her head. Either way. And then to get back to something, just to scratch that itch, Stephen Olakara was the guy, who is now a Hollywood producer of probably some left-wing gobbledygook with the, let me see if I can find Bridge Entertainment Labs. He may still live in Milwaukee area, but I would bet not. Again, talk about someone who just like completely disappeared.
Politics pays, man. Politics pays.
If you're on the left. But yeah, so with that, fellas, had a great time tonight. On behalf of the New Fashion Conservatives, I'm Justin Phillips. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and drop us that 5-star. A lot of you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, which are our two most popular players. So please take a second there and to drop us that 5-star rating and even leave a review. Sponge, where can people find you?
It's at Wiz, WIZ_political.
Follow me on X at Justin E. Phillips, ShadowGov at Robin_Voss_Stan, the pod at New Fashion Conservatives on X, YouTube, Rumble, and subscribe to our podcast at newfashionconservative.substack.com. Thanks and have a great Monday.